All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to be talking about the running costs for my BMW X7. As of the time of making this video, I've owned the car for about a year, and as you guys know, I bought this car used, so a lot of people were concerned about the running costs, being a pretty expensive vehicle when it was new. It seems like a nice value proposition to buy one used and save some money, but are you still going to be paying those expensive maintenance costs just to keep the car running and driving properly? So in this video, we're going to go into the details of how much I actually spent on my car to keep it running, doing maintenance, repairs, and all those things. And hopefully this gives you an idea of what you might expect in case you're looking at buying an X7 as well. So let's go ahead and talk about it, and hopefully you guys find this video useful.
Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future.
So for reference, the car that I bought is a 2020 BMW X7. I actually bought it a year ago, so I bought the car with 61,000 miles. It was over $87,000 when it was brand new because it came with a lot of options. And I'll just read through the list here. So we have the cold weather package, the driver's assistance pro package, the luxury seating package, parking assistance package, executive package. It also has the upgraded M Sport brakes, and it has the tow package as well. So it has a lot of really nice features. It's got heated and cooled seats, massage seats. It's got air suspension and all of the things that really make it a nice cruiser. But I primarily bought this car for hauling. It's a functional vehicle for me. We do all of our road trips in it. I do all of my towing with it. So it's really primarily for its use. The nice thing is it still feels like a BMW at its core. It's not a sports car or anything, but it doesn't feel like I'm driving a big boat or anything when I'm driving around town. So I have a lot less sacrifice for regular driving, but it gives me the function and support that I need when I really need a vehicle to do some hauling. But I can't afford to buy a brand new $87,000 BMW X7, so I bought the car used for under $40,000. And I thought that was a pretty good deal, but then a lot of you guys started sending me the offers that you were getting on vehicles, and it was even better than mine. So there are definitely deals out there, especially if you're looking at a pre-LCI model with some miles on it, you can get them for a really good deal. But again, the question is, how much does it cost to maintain? So let's go ahead and look at some of the things that I've had to spend to keep this car running properly. Now, a big part of my spend is because I bought the car at 61,000 miles, and there is a lot of recommended maintenance that you're supposed to do at 60,000 miles, but I didn't have evidence of that being done in the past. So I did as much of it as I could, as quickly as I could, just to avoid any issues. So let's go ahead and look at the list, and I DIY'd everything. Again, I've got all the DIY videos on my channel in case you guys want to see how easy this stuff is to do. But the first thing was the transfer case service, because that's one of the biggest issues with these cars. If you don't service it regularly, it can potentially fail and burn up the clutch packs, which of course damages your X-Drive functionality. So I spent $18 on the fluid extractor in order to get the old fluid out and pump new fluid in. Then I spent $30 on the wrench that you need to get up and get access into that area since it's really tight. There's a specific wrench you want to use to make it easier. I spent $45 on 1 liter of DTF1 fluid. And then I also spent $6 on a replacement drain plug. So all of that together was $99 for the service. So not too bad, under $100 just to service that transfer case. And I plan on doing that probably every 20 to 30,000 miles moving forward, just to be sure I keep that working well for as long as possible. Then we did the front differential service, and that one was actually even cheaper. I was able to reuse the wrench and reuse my fluid extractor for this service, so I didn't have to buy additional tools or anything, but I still had to buy 500 milliliters of G5 fluid, so that way I would be able to pump that into the front diff. So that was $65. And then this one actually has 2 plugs. There's a fill plug and a drain plug. So it was $12 for that. So this one totaled up to $77. Again, still relatively cheap, less than $100 to do that service. Then I did the rear diff, and this one I was able to use the same fluid extractor, but I did need the extractor tool. It kind of has that hook on it so you can suck out all the fluid from the bottom of the differential because it doesn't have a drain plug. So that extractor tool was $20. Then I bought a full liter of G5 oil because it uses more fluid than the front diff, so that was 130 bucks. And then another drain plug, which was $6. So that totaled to $156. That's so far the most expensive service that I've done to the car. But then we did the transmission, and that one, of course, is a much bigger unit, so it is much more expensive. I bought the transmission pan and the hardware for $108, and then I bought 7 liters of transmission fluid. It was $141 for the ZF fluid, but keep in mind the OEM fluid is a little bit more, and you don't necessarily need 7 liters of fluid. I was only able to get about 5.5 liters of fluid in there, so I bought 7 liters just to be sure I would have enough, but depending on how much you actually use, it might be a little bit more or less. So yeah, and then of course I did the spark plug service as well. So I replaced my spark plugs with NGK 96206 plugs. That was $91. And then I also bought the spark plug extension tool that you guys saw me use in that video. You need a special thin wall socket in order to do spark plug changes on these BMW motors. So that was $23 and totaled up 114 bucks to do my spark plugs. And then the last thing was I did an oil and oil filter change. So I bought 10 liters of 0W30 Liqui-Moly oil. It only needs 6.5 liters, but I just buy the big jugs because it's more cost effective. So that was 118 bucks. And then $16 for the man filter. So $134 for my oil change. Now, couple things to consider here. One is, again, all of the tools and stuff that I bought, I only needed to buy them once, so I was able to reuse them for all of the different drivetrain services. Also, I buy all of my parts and fluids from FCP Euro. They give lifetime replacements for free. So the next time I do the service, I drain out the old fluid, put it back in the original bottles and send it back, and I'll get a refund and store credit, which for me is a significant savings long term. So it just makes sense to start off my services buying from them. And then the last thing is, like I said, I did all of the maintenance DIY. So for each of these, it's probably at most 2 or 3 hours of labor if you were to go to your dealer, and depending on their hourly rate, it might be around $400 to $500 on top of the part cost. So you can imagine that's around like $2,000 to $3,000 that you would add on top of these costs in total to do all of the services at once. But my total cost was $829. So less than $1,000 to do all of the 60,000 mile services. I think that's a pretty good deal. Definitely not cheap or free. Definitely, not as much as it might be on a front wheel drive Honda or something like that. But I think for this type of car and how I use it and how complex it is with the drivetrain and how long I want this car to last, I am okay with spending that money. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't all just maintenance. I did have one issue with the car that required going to the dealer to get it fixed, and I detailed all of that in a previous video on my channel where I talked about my rain sensor issue. So when I first got the car, there wasn't really any rain, so I didn't get a chance to use it. But of course, on my first road trip, it started raining and the wipers started going crazy. They would randomly speed up and slow down, and they weren't really matching what the rain was doing when it was coming on the windshield. And then eventually I got a rain sensing error. And so I brought it to the dealer. Unfortunately, I found out that the front glass was not the original glass, so it had been replaced at some point. And it seems to be a relatively common issue if you get the glass replaced and the place that you use to do the service tries to cheap out a little bit. They might not replace the actual rain sensor gel pad, and it's this little clear kind of squishy pad similar to like suction cup material or something. It's clear, it's soft, but it's also easily damaged. And if they don't replace it, it can easily get, scrunched up or torn or something that can obstruct the view of your rain sensor and prevent it from accurately being able to tell how much rain is on your front windshield. So that was the issue I ran into. Thankfully, they didn't actually have to replace the whole windshield. They just took the rain sensor down and replaced the pad itself and then reinstalled the rain sensor. So for me, that cost $262. Obviously, at this mileage, I don't have a warranty or anything, and I don't know who replaced the glass, so I couldn't go back to them to get it fixed. And so it was pretty cheap. They actually did me right on this one. So good on my dealer for helping me out on this one. Another thing I want to note is I bought this car from a BMW dealership. Again, no warranty, no certified pre-owned or anything like that. But because it was at a dealership, I feel like they felt more obligated to fix everything that was wrong with the car, especially some of the lower hanging fruit. So when I bought the car, they immediately replaced the water pump, the battery and the key, the front and rear wipers, the front brake pads and rotors. They changed the brake fluid, the intake filter, and the cabin air filter. And for me, I've never been one to prioritize buying a vehicle from a dealership, especially an OEM dealership. Like in this case, I bought it from a BMW dealer that was a couple hours away. But the service that I got from them and how they prepared the vehicle was significantly better than what I got with my X5 that I just bought from a random used car lot. They didn't do anything to the car, and I had to do a lot of stuff to fix the oil leaks and the coolant leaks and stuff that it already had existing. And I think this experience was much, much better simply because all the maintenance I've done was proactive. I had one little issue that was fixed for relatively cheap, and all of these other things that I probably would have had to replace myself was already done and effectively included in the purchase price. So I feel really good about what they did and my buying decision to buy it from a dealer. And I think for a car in this realm of use where it's primarily my family hauler and stuff like that, and I don't really plan on modifying a lot and doing a lot of stuff, it's not really a project. I just want something that works. I feel like buying from a dealer does give me a lot more peace of mind. I definitely have a newfound respect for going that route. But of course, I didn't leave it completely stock. Yes, I did modify it. No, I don't need to hear you explain to me why it was stupid. I did it because I wanted to. And I feel like everything that I've changed on the car has given me some kind of benefit, either more safety or performance, something that generally I can enjoy on the car. So I did a Uniden R4 radar detector along with a Meritap hardwire kit. I did the Blackview DR970X Plus front and rear dash cam. Then I also have an MHD Stage 2 tune with a Bimmer Network 4.5-inch catless downpipe going into the stock exhaust, so nothing crazy there, just a little more power, a little more sound. I did a Tow Pro Elite brake controller, so I'm having a better time doing my towing and have everything integrated with the factory brake control system. I also did the license plate bracket that I showed you guys was a pretty good upgrade compared to the crappy OEM one, and then a tow cover just to block off the tow hitch. So all of that together was just over $2,000. I think it was money well worth it. Again, for my peace of mind and having a little bit more fun behind the wheel. It is a lot of things that give me a lot of satisfaction in the car. So yeah, I think overall spending, just under $3,000 for everything that I've done to the car isn't too bad. Again, you could take $2,000 of that off if you just want to keep it completely stock, but I do like the extra convenience of having, a dash cam and a radar detector and stuff like that. I do have some fears in the future. A big one is the air suspension. That is very expensive to replace, and if that were to fail, being out of warranty, that would be a pretty big job. The other thing is the oil pump. Again, with the Gen 2 B58, that's something that has been kind of hit or miss. There was one time where my oil level didn't read, but every other time since then, it's been able to read. So I don't know. A lot of people are asking me if I'm going to replace the oil pump, and it's a possibility, but it's not really something that I'm prioritizing right now. I drove it all winter last year through the snow and all that stuff and never had any issues. It lives outside, so I'm not particularly worried about it being cold and driving it in freezing temps and the oil pump, but I do think for peace of mind, I could upgrade it to the metal version and of course, make a DIY for you guys that are interested in that process. And probably the last thing is tires, which tires on these cars seem to wear pretty quickly and they are very expensive. Thankfully, I only have the 21-inch wheels, which are still expensive, but the 22-inch wheels would be even more expensive. So that's something else that I'm worried about. If I have to replace them every 20 or 30,000 miles, that's going to kind of stink. But again, we'll see when we get to that point. I haven't had to replace them yet. I just recently did a tire rotation to make sure they last as long as possible. And I think with all of my drivetrain services and my transfer case service, it'll prevent me from putting any extra strain or scrubbing on the tires as well. So yeah, again, very happy with my purchase. Excited to see this car last me 10 plus more years in the future and do everything that I need it to without much fuss. But of course, I'll be keeping you guys updated on how that all goes. So for now, I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.